Hi and welcome. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Sunday, July 10th, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Skydrop. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening July 3rd through the 9th, 2022, and this is show number 161. Now, if you've watched any of my shows previously, and if you have, thanks so much for coming back here and returning, and if you're brand new, welcome, extra welcome to you. Thank you, heartfelt thanks to all of you for stopping by the show. In this channel for a while. But if you've watched any of my other shows, you will know that sometimes I toy with, do I want to go with this cover slide or another cover slide image? So this show follows suit, and I have a couple of other alternates that I wasn't sure if I should feature them as the cover. See what you think. I really like this one called Sky Discs, and we'll get into this slide in detail in the show coming up. And here's another one, Sky Discs, looking at one in a different area and a different perspective. All right, so let's get into the show. We're going to kick it off with a couple of words, wisdom, and spirit of the day pages, which actually this time are really just going to show images. And I'm not really going to go over any meanings of this. Purpose of showing these is just for you to take a look and see if it evokes anything within you. Now, I'm just titling this Spark of Life. I think in Spanish, spark is called La Chispa, or it would be La Chispa de la Vida. And that's what this reminds me of, just that spark that happens that we can't explain how it gets here in the human body. When you see a sonogram of a baby, all of it forming, all of a sudden, bam, this spark of light just comes in and flashes inexplicably. Nobody can tell you how and when it gets there. It's amazing. And so it's basically the God spark, the spark of life. And this is obviously just a sparkler I'm holding on the 4th of July. And here is just applying some enhancement, and this gives you an idea where I take this photo, it's an original, and simply enhance it. And for anyone who is new, it applies to the show coming up. It just means I've taken the original and upped or lowered the levels of the attributes of the photos, such as digitally such as color saturation, brightness, contrast, things of that nature, just to really draw out even more detail and see things in a new way that we might not be able to see with the naked eye, but we can absolutely do so with the technology, with the vaster range of photo and light sensitivity available with the digital cameras and the software linked with that. So here we go. We're going to kick it off for the sky observations part of the show. We are going to be looking over the skies, up over the skies of Miami and greater Miami today. And we are starting off with July 3rd, and this is looking to the northwest toward the evening. And what caught my attention immediately was this long bar-like thing happening with even like an aura or something force field happening around it, some cloaking material, and it looks like it's emerging and cutting a path through this thick stuff. So that's at A in particular. There's also weird stuff, however, though, happening at C and B, and we'll get to that in a minute. With enhancement, you will see this is what we get. So what's very interesting to me is, yes, I'm calling A.1 a cloaking craft, this long line, because we even see cloaking material kind of coming, again, for anybody who's new, I say wafting, I know it's wafting, but we see cloaking material kind of wafting over the front of this thing, part of it, partially, right? And then it continues on. We're also going to start to see holes here. We see two pronounced holes and another kind of depression in here, something kind of carved out, looks very intelligently designed. So we're going to take another few looks at this with other types of enhancement. Over at B.1, we start to see a dart-like shaped thing. It looks very precise, too precise to be simply a cloud. Now, is that an object in and of itself cloaking, or is this just, again, like kind of this other little tufted cloaking material happening around an object forming here? I'm not sure. And then look at this C. We get these weird little curves, and they're kind of equidistant, spaced apart. They look very rhythmical, marching along, and again, kind of too precise and orderly just to be quote-unquote random, organic, haphazard clouds. So I'm suspecting a bunch of cloaking material going on here, even above and beyond what we see here with this long, thin, linear form. And so we zoom in mainly to look at the linear form now. There's also weird little things happening. As I say, the more you look at any one of these photos, the more you're going to find well above and beyond what I call out. There's just too much to call out sometimes in some of these scenes. Also, I'm going to take a moment to mention, and again, bear with me if you've returned, what I do is I narrate the show on a laptop-sized screen, and because of that, I see certain things. Now, if I narrated the show simply going off of a handheld device or where something is more of a thumbnail in size or bigger, a little bit bigger, then I would likely narrate the show in a whole different way, because I'm going to see different things based on the size of the actual scale of the size of the images. So if you are able and have a bigger screen in front of you and can also have a handheld device, like a phone size, camera phone size, if you can hold them one over the other, one above, one below, and just kind of toggle your vision, your view up and down between the two screens, you might see a whole bunch of stuff. It might make it interesting for you to watch the show in that way. Anyway, we're going to carry on, but before we do, we're going to look at capital A, lowercase a. Here's where I start to see, excuse me, one second. Okay, I'm back. I'm having voice cracking issues today. Anyway, here we start to see, a hole, another hole, and some more holes and depressions. So again, to me, this is very designed. We're not getting a glimpse of just something that happens in a natural cloud system. So that's why I'm saying that's another tell that this is a cloak and craft. Okay, and sorry, bear with me one more moment. Okay, I'm back. All right, let's take another look here too. Now we're going to zoom even more on those holes I was looking at, and we just really see them here if you follow my cursor. So again, I'm just saying that's a level of detail that looks engineered, like engineered into metal, so that's why I'm calling it cloak and craft. Now we're going to look at this scene just a few minutes later, because stuff starts to develop a little bit more with the passage of time. And so then here we see B.5 is looking more distinct. And then this shape has already moved and turned on an angle. So now we see it looking a little bit thickened now. And there's also some weird little, again, look like rhythmical ridges and things that look engineered at the edge of this thing. These start to kind of fly off and do their own thing too. So if you go back and look a couple slides back at the scene and then look now, you'll see how it's morphing and changing. Also note the color signatures. So on the show, we really take a look at not only forms and things that look like machine parts happening in the sky with cloak and craft, but we also look at color signatures, light energy bursts, where something looks white versus red or gold or, blue indigo, whatever, warm tones versus cool tones. And we also look at trajectories and things that look like they could be zooming off of something, where normally you would have a cloud system moving in a predictable way if it's a natural organic system, and then something slamming into it perpendicular, we know something of tech origin is going on. Okay, now down here at B.5, we start to see this looks like a standalone craft with a very straight lines, coming off of it. So there's a lot of interesting, mysterious activity happening in here. I invite you to look a little longer at your own time, see what you find. I think we're going to zoom in on A.D one more time. Yeah, here we go. So now A.E, that's that little rhythmical stuff that looks engineered to me. Look at this. It looks like little triangular forms with little dots in there. So it almost reminds me, if this were round, it would be like the top of a tamper-proof, what do they call it? A screw head, like a domed screw head. Anyway, like a security screw head. So very, technical, and it's a repeating pattern. So that's not a haphazard thing occurring in the sky. Now, B.6, I still can't quite get at what's going on in here, but here, this little object down here, see that straight line? This has to be some type of cloak and craft. I don't know if that's just part of a bigger one, like this is a whole bow of a ship here moving in onto the scene, or these are independent little things happening. See what you think. All right, now we're going to look to the east, and this is toward the evening, again, 7:50. And just strange things like this streak coming in, this coming in an opposing direction, almost creating a right angle, and then this kind of fizzing down, or funneling down this way, and then we have like a triangular shape. Okay, so we're going to look to the right, and we're going to do enhancements on this, a few different ones. Hold on one more second though, please. Okay, I'm back. I'm recording outside today, and I think I'm picking up plants and stuff. It's making me a little scratchy in the voice, but hold on. Okay. So we're going to look at this with a few different enhancements. So right away, when we look to the right-hand side of the screen, look at 8.1. That's a triangular imprint. I don't think we can be any more clear on that. There's another one echoing above it, and at B.1, there's a triangular imprint here and here as well. And so for right now, that's what I want to focus on. We are going to get to look at this outline. We have a definite spherical object hiding in the back. And it's not a lens flare, because I looked at my lens flare, it was like a tiny dot on another photo. And it's hiding in behind there almost imperceptibly, but we'll look at that as well at E.1. There's also another curve happening beyond it at f.1. We're going to take a look at that too. But for right now, let's check out these triangular forms. I put some sketch overlays. I'm going to toggle back and forth now. Actually, on these 3 triangles plus this curve, again, there's going to be a ton of other stuff happening up in here. These are just highlights I'm flagging for the purposes of this show and to keep everything in a tighter time frame. But here we go. See, I'm going to go back and forth, see what you see. Just look at the right-hand side photo image and just see if you see the same thing I'm seeing. Okay, now we're going to zoom in a little bit more in this area too with the curve. So here we go. Look at this. That's a perfect curve, and it's of the same material and consistency of this stuff. It's not a lens flare. So we're going to take a look at it. There also seems to be a kind of a curve developing beyond it. And so this is what I see. So again, I'm going to toggle back and forth, look at the sketch lines, and see if you see it as well. Okay. To me, it's very clear. And we even have little circular, very well-defined circles all over the place. Something weird's happening up here in the upper right hand too. I'm not sure what. See if you can see what that is. All right, now we're going to zoom in on that little triangular piece that everything funneled down to and ended up at. Something weird looks like it's happening above it as well. So with enhancement, I get at, yeah, that's a standalone triangular shape doing its own thing. You know, we have another, sorry, the voice cracking. We have another gray element down here, you know, the same caliber, and here. But then why do we have white right immediately next to it? So that's not a trick of lighting or anything. You know, this is just kind of 2 different types of smoky-like material side by side. And to the point that even this white-ish material is wafting over this one, engaging it. So very, very peculiar. I think we look at it again. Yeah, so we're gonna go one more time, but look at up here. This is looking like a triangular form with kind of like holes in it. Again, it looks too well defined to be just a cloud. And it's on an angle while this is coming straight across. You know, everything is just very peculiar. You're so peculiar in this scene. So, sorry. So I'm going to go back up and just toggle between, of course, the focus is this triangle and this triangle. And there we go. That's what I'm finding. Okay. That's what I'm finding. And of course, there are other things hidden in here as well. Hidden in plain sight, like this wedge shape. This is doing something weird. There's a dark element right underneath it, and something strange is happening here overall. So this actually looks like it could be a teardrop shape or some kind of peach pit-like shape with something happening in front of it. The thing is that there's so much particulate and cloaking material all over the place that it's doing a great job at cloaking and obscuring some shapes that we start to see emerging. Then, again, as I say with trajectories, it looks like something is shooting off, you know, straight off this way with, you know, object with mass to it. So, yeah, I'm saying there's cloak and craft all over the place in that scene, too. All right, now we're going to look south, again, just like a minute later. And look at this. So we have this type of clouds forming, and then we have this right above it. So they're too close in proximity to be doing 2 totally different things. So I'm saying they're 2 totally different types of things happening. I can't tell you exactly what, but with enhancement, we see some color signatures. Something's going on different up here than down here. And we start to see triangular shapes. So we got really straight, hard edges here forming a triangular form. So I'm going to say we've got little cloak and crafts, you know, just kind of cruising along at this altitude, and something very different happening above it. We're going to zoom in on some other clouds, and look at this, you know, really well-deformed triangular form, and they morph and change like by the second. So it's interesting. The more you observe these things, you start to watch them change and grow in different ways. And here's some with some enhancement. I was just trying to see if I could get any little machine parts popping out. Here there's a very rigid line, something's cloaking in there. And then again, you know, perfectly hard edges here, perfect hard edges and symmetrical triangle. That's just not a typical cloud, at least, you know, I've been living on this planet for many decades and I have not seen that until recent years. Then we look up at D.1. We've got a straight edge here again. It looks like it has a triangular shape because we got really pointy edges here. And then a bright spot, which is also a tell that something else is kind of hiding in behind there. All right, now we're also looking to the south, and I could not help but see this form with a clean groove, you know, cut into it. So we look to the right-hand side, there's that groove. And then the overall thing starts looking like a downward diving craft with something else happening here as well with a hard edge and shadow. So I don't know if this is a standalone craft or if this is just a piece on top of a deck of a much bigger craft, and we're seeing like a piece of it here or the back end of one, and that's like an exhaust pipe. Who knows? See what you think. Okay, now this one is the original to the cover, which really just stood out. This was early in the morning on July 4th. It was not even 6:30 in the morning, looking south. And this was the only thing in that sky, and it was just like one big cotton ball. So I'm just calling it a sky drop. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. I'm just calling it a sky drop because it really was just like one little chunk, like a cotton ball or a puff ball sitting there. Now, it did kind of slowly move toward the west, and then when I came along paralleling it in the same motion, it then turned and suddenly started to come toward me. So then I got a little freaked out. I'm gonna admit it, and I'm like, I don't know if that's friend or foe. I think I just better get inside. So that's what happened. But here it is with some enhancement. It clearly was its own little animal, so to speak, and even down here toward the D.1 part, if you see my cursor, that looks like the end of a little pipe popping out, so either exhaust or a cloud maker or something, sensor, reader, whatever for a cloak and craft. It was just too unusual, and this isn't even a typical cloud form in this part of the world. I say it every time I'm in subtropical to tropical Miami, and it's intensely hot and humid. And clouds don't form this way, and nor do they sit this low in the sky. This was insanely low in the sky. Also, we have like a trail happening up here in the upper left hand of the corner. It's why I'm calling it Skydrop. We get some reddish, color signature happening here. And also, it's really weird to have red-pink color signature in the sky looking south. It's pre-sunrise. And this looks like this ball just kind of was dropped. That's why I call it Skydrop. Just kind of looks like it was dropped out here to hang out, check things out, and then go about its business. All right, now we're looking south again, and this is later toward the evening. And what caught my attention is this hard angle over here on the left-hand side, and something slamming into it at a different angle. And then this is looking kind of ellipsoidal over here. So we look to the right with extreme enhancement. Oh, what also caught my attention was this pink flare-up to the south part of the sky toward the east, which should not be there. If anything, color would be over to the diametrically opposite side of the screen here, and it would be happening to the west. But no, it's happening into the east at sunset, very past sunset, actually. So now we look to the right, and here's this really hard-edged form with something coming into it in an unnatural way, and again, this kind of weird ellipsoidal shape. So to me, these two elements are absolutely engineered. There's a big story going on here. We get the big pink flare-ups, and it's even happening here. So what's happening, actually, when you see it up here and down here, there's a huge sky beam happening, that's really, really red and pink. And, of course, we've got this enormous amount of sky particulate and heavy blanketing to hide what exactly is going on with this pink beam that should not be there to the south, southeast at past sunset, okay? And here we're going to zoom out, and here's that scene, got that hard edge, this thing, and now you can see it B, and moving up this way, you see a little more of the pinks happening. And then here we get a really good view that we got that glow going down at B.1. I know there's activity happening in here, but I really couldn't get at anything else because it's just so much particulate and cloaking material going on. But look up here, I did not flag this one prior, but we see something weird here, like a very distinct triangular form here, so I gotta believe there's a craft moving in this way as well. See what you think. Something else is happening up in here. All right, now we're just zooming in on that glow part just because it's a really beautiful color. And here's with extreme enhancement. An object is absolutely cloaking here behind A.1, but again, there's just so much particulate, it's really hard to get an exact fix on it. All right, now we're going to look to the west toward the evening on a different day. And what caught my attention was this straight line, more or less straight line. And also, this kind of looks like a sideways V or like a less than sign. And something weird looked like it was bulging out of here. And so with enhancement, this is what we get. Now we do see a very clear dart shape or arrowhead shape here at 8.1 with also like a pipe coming off of it. So to me, that's absolutely an object. That's not a natural cloud form. Also, there are little bits and pieces in here that look like machine parts popping out to me. That would be a part of cloak and craft. Got something weird diving straight down here with a straight edge. Looks like a piece of a craft or a standalone craft. But then look at B.1. Again, sorry for the voice. B.1, there's absolutely something. Looks like a shield with something bulging out from the other side. But I got to say that's part of an overall bigger craft or standalone craft. And again, we just got this straight edge. And then we've got a triangular form here at D.1. Something else like an egg shape happening over here or oval shaped. So there's enough in here to convince me that we've got some foreign tech going on. Which I'm going to say, call it cloak and craft. And to me, it's of ET origin, or at the very least, a collaboration between ET and human tech. Emphasis more on the ET side. All right, here we're going to zoom in on this one more time because it's just fascinating. So now instead of something like poking through a membrane, a metal membrane, it looks like there's a ridge line even. So this is a distinct part of something. See what you see there. All right, now we're going to be looking east, and this weird form started to call my attention at B. And we look to the right. Look how strange this is. It's on a really sharp angle, a steep angle. Then we have something diving down this way with a straight line coming in at a different angle from this. There's weird structures happening here. These look like little, I don't know what kind of structure, like little triangular forms or V-shaped forms. 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 of them. So I don't know if we're looking at the exhaust pipes on the back end of a craft or something, or lights or power source. See what you think, or other kind of craft elements. But they're too designed, too engineered looking to just be haphazard once again. And again, this thing is just so bizarre. I can't even tell you what that is, but it's not a natural cloud. We're going to zoom in on B.2, and it just got too grainy and fuzzy to call anything out, just because it was getting, to be nighttime, and this camera phone that I take these images on can only do so much when it gets dark. But here, look at this element. I didn't label it, but this thing is coming in. It has like a rounded form. It has a ridge at the top, I'm guessing, or maybe that's like a remora on a shark type thing, like a little parasitic thing hanging on to this if it's a bioorganism. Or if it's a ship, there's just some kind of element protruding on the top of it. And look at this. It's like a stick, and that's like a triangular form and with a gap. It's just too precise. There's no way you can call this a natural cloud. And it also has that telltale, like, wafting, cloaking material kind of coming in and out over it. So what is this thing? I don't know, but I know it ain't natural, at least for us, humans, of what we're used to it looking in the sky for many decades. All right, now we're going to look to the northeast again. We're kind of, this element we were just looking at, that's kind of coming down. We're looking at it as it kind of moved over across the sky a bit. And here we go. This part's falling apart a little bit, but what is this thing? And then we have this, which looks like a standalone shape, like a ball, like morphing, metal or something, or water. It's really weird. See what you think is happening. Oh, also, this, juxtaposed to this just makes no sense. This is insanely low in the sky, and then this thing is coming very linear across over top of it, We look to the right, and we see that. So to me, there's cloak and craft happening in here, and down here, and above as well. All right, this gets interesting. So I was driving around in Miami, and I looked to the horizon, and I said, oh, God, I'm going to have to pull over and stop the car and get out and take pictures of this, because what caught my attention first was not this overall stuff happening above, although that gets interesting in a second. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. This was all in and of itself very interesting, but I didn't really see that at the time. I was really focused here on just D and E, because I saw what looked like a saucer-shaped cylindrical stuff hanging out on the rim of this cloud. And if you look at some of my previous shows, I talk about how lately I've seen a lot of craft that are cloaking and just perched on the rim of some of these overall cloud systems, and they just hang out. And so there's one here, and then I saw these disc-like shapes, and they were a little bit earlier they were here, and then when I took the picture they were moving over to hide into here. And also around this whole thing was like this kind of spectrum, this rainbow glow, very extraordinary glow happening. And it kind of reminded me of the glow that we saw in a previous show of mine called Skies Above, where there's just a literal rainbow craft sitting on the rim of a cloud. And somebody else in the area, unbeknownst to me, also took a picture of it too. And so it wasn't just me seeing it. Now we're going to look at this with enhancement, and we see, look at this, we've got this spectrum glow all over the place in this western sky. And then we look above, and we get some really interesting patterns. Like this looks like a groove around here forming a triangular form, and then we've got these straight lines, more or less parallel, doing their own thing. There's just a lot going on, some weird shape at C.1. So I'll leave this to you to take a good long look at on your own time if you want to really dig in and find some interesting things happening here. There's also these weird parallel lines happening, this structure, again, parallel lines here. And when I see stuff like this, and I see this choppy fuzzy effect, if you're returning, you'll know I call it staccato cloud or staccato cloud effect, which to me means there's some huge craft or multiple craft in here. generating electromagnetic wave activity or some kind of pulsing, like sonic pulsing or heat. Generating heat off of craft to create these waves, and could be any number of things, but absolutely something artificially local in the local atmosphere generating that. To either cloak themselves or cloak a whole field of craft that occupy an area. That's my theory. Okay, now I'm going to go back a second. We're going to look at D and E specifically. So here's that saucer-like thing I said, cylindrical thing, and then here are these little craft at E.1. And as we zoom in, sure enough, we see at D.2, there's an object perched and sitting on top of this otherwise, cloud profile. And then we look at E.2, and these are clearly two like cloaking craft moving along, and another one parallel to it like a companion craft. I don't know what this thing is doing coming, if it's leading up to it or it's just in front of it somewhere and we're just seeing it in the foreground. Anyway, we look at this with enhancement, and this is like the zoom in on the alternate cover slide. And look, we have two distinct shapes and then something else happening here. Look at the thing I said that was saucer-like perched on the cloud. We even see straight line, straight line, straight line. 3 perfectly parallel straight lines jutting out of this thing. So it's absolutely tech craft up there. And then I'm not sure what's happening at 2.3, if that's a shadow or if that's something else cloaking in a different way. And when you look in the background, we also see straight lines implying there are other craft back there cloaking. Now we are going to look at E.3 because this gets real interesting. With more enhancement, I can't dig out anything else. These are like pure light bodies that I can't see any detail. Although there's a little stick coming out of whatever this thing is. But when we look at this little shadowy shape beyond, we do start to see parallel lines. And there is structure happening in there, very rigid structure. So this thing is absolutely a cloaking craft as well. And, with the lighter part is where you see this line, straight as can be. Another line parallel. This is not parallel, but also a straight line. So see what you think is happening in this overall scene. And then later on in a different part of town, I pulled over again just to see and monitor what's going on with our special scene there. And we still see a distinct shape at A. Here's with enhancement. And absolutely, this is a different rainbow-like craft. It did have more spectrum to it than what's showing in the photo right now. It did have more of a rainbow effect. And then we have pure white right next to it, right? With a weird notch out. And then looks like other craft happening here. And then what are these dark shapes zooming off in the background? This looks like a pointed ellipse, and this looks like another more cylindrical shape moving off in the background. Then another part of town again, I think. Wait, no, this is the same part of town, just different view. So looking more toward the south of this overall system that I was looking at. B is like the rainbow quality craft, the spectrum craft here, sitting on top of a different type of cloud system. And then we get this really bright glow, which is supposed to be the setting sun, although I do question that. Just a lot of strange activity happening in and around this, this profile of this quote-unquote cloud system. Something strange happening up above as well. So with some enhancement, this is all I could really pull out of it. I do pull out that B.1 is a totally different animal than all the other cloud activity going on, so to speak. I also pull out that there's also likely a craft sitting straight on top of this overall system, because this is really straight again and has a point to it. Okay, see what you see in here. Okay, now zooming out a bit on the overall, here's where we had that rainbow part, the light part, and then we look further along. There's a sharp edge in here. We look further along, it looks like something's hanging out atop here too that looks like craft. And then we see this overall system above. And look at this. We've got concentric lines, like circle parts, parallel to each other up here. Something totally different happening right in here. There's a lot of unexplained movement happening right here local, when everything is supposedly very pretty, like even keel and non-disturbed down here. So let's see what's going on with some enhancement. This is what I get. I don't have any more answers, but I do get there's some weird object happening over here where my cursor is, and then obviously what I already mentioned with what was happening where the light was and where this other craft was. But what gets really interesting here is what the heck is going on here. We have very rigid and straight lines, and this even looks like a hole, like we're looking down on the top of a hole, like going down this way. So see what you see in the scene. Also note straight lines, that come to a point, and different color signatures like purple, indigos, and then we get the warmer tones. Okay, now I did drive to a different part of town to still look at what was going on in this scene to the west. And here we go. Now see, look how well defined that's getting. So that thing I was looking at before now is really popping up to be like a perfect ring, a thick ring or cylindrical form. And then we have something strange happening in here with a straight line and 3 points, and something distinct happening over here, all sitting on this quote-unquote cloud rim. And even this roundish form looks like something else kind of cloaking on top of this cloud, formation. And then we have something straight happening at D, and again, that weird thing going on up at E. So with some enhancement, this is what we get. And I'm going to zoom in, I think, on C.1. Yeah, so here we go. This is what's going on there. Now, I did mention that we are in tropical to subtropical South Florida, and as such, you don't get anything forming this smooth and cylindrical in the sky, especially not this low, especially when it's high heat and humidity. And this is something they try to say, like over Mount Shasta, that a lot of people have been capturing what they call lenticular clouds, which look very saucer-like. Well, we've got one here. We have no mountains, I can guarantee you that, and no cool air, and no high atmosphere here. So, we're dealing with a standalone craft. Look how perfectly curved that shape is. And there's such stuff kind of trailing on behind the back of this thing. And with enhancement, we see that the cloud body, the main cloud body here, is of a more cool tone, and up here things get really warm, including this. And so this is a different object than this. So it's not a part of the same cloud system. And it has structure, it has a clean edge, and it has some reflectivity happening along the top where it would catch light, and it has some straight stuff off the back of this thing. So I'm calling it a cloaking craft, and pardon, it's a little bit meppy when you pull this up on a big screen. But here's where we really see how round and perfect and beautiful that is. Actually, a beautiful clean line. And then toward the back, things get a little more interesting. So we've got like stick-like things, rigid things popping off the back. So I'm going to say that this is absolutely a craft, and we're looking at the bow to the right and the back end to the left. Okay, now this was just really bizarre, happening at 7:45. Actually, this is in the morning. I have a PM, an old thing down below. But I put 7:45 a.m. number 1 and 7:45 a.m. number 2 to the right, because within a split second, the sun, all of it rising up, supposedly. This is a very artificial looking sun. I talk about solar simulators. Check it all out in previous shows and at other Earth and Sky watching channels. But we've got an artificial sun that's like hiding the true effect of our real sun beyond it. And that's just tech, solar tech up in the sky doing it. So because our normal sun cannot be this white, first of all, and glaring, and one split second it's huge in the sky, and then the next second it comes down to another abnormally large ball, okay? Our natural sun cannot do that, does not do that. And here is the lens flares up here where that little dot is, and there is a little bit of reddish stuff around it, red-pink. But that's not anything, but this is what we're looking at. So our natural sun does not do this, glare up into the sky like this huge, and then come back down to a smaller ball, which again is abnormally huge for the sun size. We're going to look at it again a split second later, number 3, 7:45 a.m. number 3, and just to get the overall context, after it flashed out huge glaring and came down a bit to another big ass ball that shouldn't be that big. Anyway, here it is with some enhancement, and we can just see like everything natural around has a kind of a warmer tone, and this ungodly, unnatural thing is intensely white and glaring still. And so that's just kind of a side note. I don't want to go off into the artificial sun solar simulator tangent today, but I couldn't ignore that one and wanted to include that group of slides. Okay, now this one, we're looking east, and actually this should be, yeah, no, this is as it says it is. So just looking in the sky, it just looks strange, these groupings, these distinct shapes of clouds kind of traveling in a pack together. It just jumped out at me as being really odd. And then here it is with some enhancement. So we can see that there's some different color signatures to these, even from one to the other. This may be just effect because a more golden light is coming up. But we see some weird shapes like here at D.1 coming out of this cloud, and I don't know, it's just my little sensor kind of went off like this ain't natural. The way it's grouped and coming across the sky. The way we have like a pure wedge shape, a triangular shape forming, just really weird, and their proximity to each other. And also like we've got like a stick-like thing poking up out of here, and maybe a triangular shape down here. Just lots of really weird little things, peculiar things happening in the scene. All right, well, this is the photo of the day and the close of the show. Sorry it's all fuzzy and bitmappy. This was an iguana that like raised up to walk across the pavement, and it was moving, and it was far away. But you get the idea. Just the lines on this thing. Look at this leg in the back. It just really, really bizarre. Anyway, that happened to be off the side of the road when I was driving by. Okay, well, I thank you for heading over here a while, and as always, I wish you a gorgeous right now and tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.